Hello and welcome to the Union Pacific Railroad Geneva Subdivision. My name is Daryl Cruz, owner and builder of the layout, and your host for episode 25 of season 2019. This is an operations video on the Proviso yard crews. What you're looking at right now is the train that has just arrived. It's a Norfolk Southern train, the NS33A, and you can see the Norfolk Southern units were in the holding track, and we have two yard crews, the west crew, which you're looking at right now, and the east crew on the other end are coupled onto the train and ready to work this train from both ends of the yard. And what we're going to do is uncouple it in the middle here and have each yard crew classify the cars into the tracks according to this switch list. So the top half, these are all the cars for the train that just came in. The top half will be worked by the east Proviso yard crew, and the bottom half will be worked by the west crew. So we need to uncouple between the two cars on the black line there, the brown and the gray covered hoppers, which we have right here. So we'll go ahead and uncouple these cars. At Norfolk Southern 1073, there is the one of the two units that brought this train in. If you haven't yet, you may want to check previous videos. The most previous video to this one was, in fact, on the Norfolk Southern locomotives bringing train NS33A from the east, from the Chicago yards, Norfolk Southern yards in Chicago to Proviso here. And then this video was on the yard crew in Proviso, breaking down the train into the classification tracks. The tracks that you're seeing here, by the way, are from left to right. The first two tracks are track 2 and track 1 of the main line. Then you have the holding track for the foreign power, 2 tracks for the arrival and departure, and then you have 9 tracks for the classification tracks for the Proviso yard. One thing you can tell, the main line is always a different color. It's a pink granite ballast that the Union Pacific uses on the Geneva sub. So you can see here, you can easily pick out the main line by the different color, the pink lady granite. I also did something to kind of make it look a little bit more realistic. Is the main line has an additional 1/8 of an inch added to the roadbed. So most of the track has just the cork roadbed, which is like a 1/4 inch thick. And then for the main line, I bought a bunch of 1/8 inch cork, and I cut it. I'll get to that in a little bit. Here's the spreadsheet. We first of all are going to drop off the 2 covered hoppers, an orange and brown one from TPW and the GACX. So we only have 2 tracks free here, so those 2 cars are going to the MPR and PNX. So I placed that into the track 1 location, and then we'll have to do some switching around for the others. As you can see, I had 2 different kinds of names. There's 3 main trains, the MPRDM, which is from Proviso to Des Moines, and another train is the MPRNP, which is from Proviso to North Platte. Third train is NS 12A, which is the train from the Proviso, Norfolk Southern train from Proviso back to Chicago. Now, some of them have the NX added to it, which means that those are for trains that are going out the next day. So some of the tracks are holding cars that are going out today. Some of the tracks are going to be holding cars that are going to be going out the next day. I was fortunate enough to have, as part of my crew in Rochelle, a gentleman by the name of Bill Pistello, who worked for the railroad, not the Union Pacific, but he worked for, I think it was the Sioux Line, which was bought by one of the Canadian roads, I think Canadian National, but it could be CP. But anyway, he was very knowledgeable on how yards worked, and so he gave me a lot of information about how cars or tracks and classification yards are designated for different trains, going out today, going out tomorrow, going out the day after, and so forth. So I came up with a system of using the name of the train if it's going out today, and then I add the NX, which stands for next day. And that's all I basically have tracks for, is trains going out today and trains going out tomorrow, which is the next day. All right, so we put those two cars, the brown one and the orange one, we'll put them into track 1. And on that little magnetic sheet with train labels, I can basically move those labels around. So as I'm working the yard, I can assign tracks to different trains, depending on how things work out. So as you can see, the yard's pretty full. And the only way we're going to get all these cars into the yard is to be also not only breaking the trains down, but also building trains. So we'll kind of be doing both at the same time. All right, the next group we're going to set out is these three, 2 tank cars and a reefer that we're going to put in the PRDM NX. The other 2 went in the PRNP NX. These 3 have to go into the PRDM NX track. And there's not a track designated for that, so the only one available is 3, so we'll take the label there and we'll put it in there, make sure it's straight. There we go. So we'll put these 3 cars then into track 3 for the MPR DM NX, which will go out as a MPR DM train, not today, but tomorrow. So those 3 go into track 3. All right, now we have another group of cars that need to go into the local track, and as you can see, every single track has cars for different trains. So there's no more room in the yard. So the only way we're going to be able to continue is to make room. And the only way you can make room, or the best way you can make room in the yard, is to begin to build a train for outgoing. So there has to be a balance between both. As you're classifying trains, you also have to build trains. So here's a reefer box, 3 box cars, and a tank car. So 5 cars that need to go into the local track. And as I said, there isn't a local track right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and begin to pull out trains for an outgoing train. So we're going to go into track 8 here. And these are cars designated for the outgoing train, PRDM, MPRDM, which is a train from here, Proviso, to Des Moines. And it's going out today. So we'll go ahead and pull those cars out from track 8. And then we'll put those in a departure track to go out as a train today, as soon as we get it all together. When we operate during an operating session, we usually have at least 2, and it works best if you have 3 people working the Proviso yard. And we'll have one person be like the yard master, or basically the paper pusher. He's the one that keeps track of all the switch lists and gives the appropriate switch list to the yard crew that needs it. So you have one person who's kind of like the train master, and then you'll have 2 people doing the yard crew. So one person will be the east yard crew, and another person will be the west yard crew. Looks like we have a double stack train going through here. This particular train had one of my new scale trains, C44-9Ws, in the lead. You may have been able to hear it coming by. Now, you can't see it right here, but the yard crew had to pull the cars all the way through the crossover to get back to the main lead track of the yard. And now it's pushing the cars into departure track 2. Couldn't use 1 because, as you can see there in track 1, there's still some cars from the train that's being broken down right now. Since I'm filming this by myself, the west yard crew has not been able to pull those cars out yet. But here you can see those are all the cars from track 8 that I just pulled out. Go ahead and uncouple those. And then we'll pull through again, and we'll go back through the crossover and come back into the yard lead. Now, since I pulled the cars out of track 8, I'll go ahead and take that label out. Okay, and that track is now available to be designated as the local track. And so we'll go ahead and back those cars. We had a couple box cars, a tank car, and a reefer box, I believe. And we'll put those into track 8, which is now the local track. Alright, so it was a reefer, 3 box cars, and a tank car. Alright, so now we still have one more set of cars to set out. And again, Have the same situation. The yard is now full again. All the tracks are taken up, so we're going to have to pull out another set of cars. Since we're building the MPRDM train, we'll go ahead and pull out another set of cars out of the track designated for that train, and we'll add those to departure track 2. And then we'll be able to use that track to set the remaining cars from the Norfolk Southern train. I thought about running this in fast motion, since it's kind of, I don't know, maybe it depends on who you are. It might be a little monotonous for some to sit here and watch cars slowly being pulled out. Other people enjoy it quite a bit. But I was thinking about running it at fast speed, maybe at double speed or 1.5 speed. But instead decided to just play it at normal speed, and then if the person watching wants to watch it faster, you do have the ability to fast forward it as you play the video on YouTube. Alright, so it's pulling the cars all the way through that crossover again. And then it's going to back those cars into the cars that have already been set there on departure track 2. As we're doing that, we'll be able to watch a coal train come through. You don't see as many coal trains going through Rochelle as you used to. They've changed a lot of the coal-fired power plants to natural gas. So not as many. When we lived there was probably a third of the trains were coal trains. It used to be, when we lived there also, you would have up to 100 trains a day going through Rochelle. I think with the absence of the coal trains, you do still get them through Rochelle. They're not completely gone, but definitely not near the numbers that they used to be. So last I heard, the number of trains through Rochelle is down to 60 to 70 trains a day. Now, still quite a lot, but not like it used to be. Alright, so we have most of the train built there for the MPRDM. Alright, our last group of cars to be set gold are for the NS12A NX. So we pulled those out of track 7, so we can put that away, and then we will designate track 7 for the NS12A NX. And then we can go ahead and set this last group of cars into track 7. Alright, we'll just set these off here, and go ahead and uncouple. And the East Proviso yard crew has completed classifying all the cars, at least its half of cars, into the Proviso yard. Alright, we have the other half to do now yet. And so here we have the West Proviso crew that's going to be working the west end of the yard. So it will be classifying the cars for the bottom half of the switch list. And then it's also going to be building the train going out, going eastward out of Proviso. So once it classifies these cars, it'll then build the Norfolk Southern NS 12A NX for next day. Well, not the train that goes out today. So here, first group, we have some more local cars. All right, so those we have all covered hoppers. Looks like there were 7 of them. So that's going to go to track 7 still. Okay, so that's already designated as track 8, I should say. The local goes into track 8. So that we already designated track 8 as the local track, and we still have some room, so we should be able to fit all of these. I think it was 6 or 7 of them. We'll be able to also fit onto track 8. So you have 2 gray ones, 2 orange ones, and I think it's just 6 of them. The 2 gray, the 2 orange, the cream, CSX, and then the red one. Alright, so it's wanted to mention too, by the way, it's won't be seeing too many regular trains going by anymore because it's rush hour at this time. So traffic has been shut down, but we will be able to see some metro trains going through. So as you see those signals there, when the second signal from the right turns green, that means there's a metro train coming through. I'll have to watch for that. Alright, so here's the last group. There's some more covered hoppers. A lot of covered hoppers on this train. And they all go into MPR DMNX, which, as you can see, is track 3. And I think we still have room in track 3. That was designated for track 3 by the I just realized I had the east and west backwards. This is the east yard crew. The other side was the west. Had my directions backwards. Sorry about that. So this is actually the west end of the yard. And we're setting all these covered hoppers into track 3, which was designated for the MPR DMNX by the West Proviso crew. I'm going to get this mixed up. Alright, so the East Proviso crew has very quickly classified its cars. There's only 2 groups, so it wasn't too difficult. So it will begin to build the eastbound Norfolk Southern train, the NS 12A and 12A, which is going to go out today. So that's in track 5 and track 9. So we need to pull 2 groups of cars out of track 5 and track 9 and put those into which is now departure track 1. So we'll go ahead and pull the cars out of track 9 first. It looks like this is a bunch of tank cars, a couple of covered hoppers, and a reefer. So we pulled those out of track 9, and we'll go ahead and back them into departure track. Departure track 1. You have the westbound. I missed the light turning green, but we do have a green light, and therefore we have a Metra coming through. I like the locomotive that is pushing that particular train, although after I bought it and really got to liking it, found out that they don't run that locomotive on the Geneva sub. That goes on the whatever Metro line goes out to the northwest suburbs. So the Metro train coming now in this direction is the kind that does run on the Geneva sub. So that one is much more authentic. And on all the Metro trains, the locomotives all face in the same direction, no matter what direction the train's going. So I think they are all facing away from Chicago. If I'm wrong, then I have them both wrong. But I think they're all facing away from Chicago. So when they go back towards Chicago, they go back in the other direction, and they basically push the train. So there's a conductor's booth in the commuter car on the end of the train, so that the conductor is actually in the commuter car running the train, even though the locomotives in fact are in the back. And then of course the cars are equipped with headlights and ditch lights also. All right, so we are now getting the cars out of track 5, which is the rest of the cars. There you can see me wearing my Royals hoodie. I am not wearing my Chiefs hoodie today because they lost yesterday. I'm still pretty upset about that. But we're not going to talk about that right now. We're pulling some more cars out of track 5 for the Norfolk Southern train, the NS12A. Quite a few cars in this particular string and this track. I have a track so you can see the locomotives way in the distance. So the track, that lead track, extends quite a ways. That's called a drill track. Okay, so it ends. It doesn't go on forever. It just goes 4 ways and then ends. But it's called a drill track, and that basically allows the yard crew to work the yard without going onto the main line. So that's called a drill track. And on the east end of the yard, the drill track is long enough to hold 20 cars. So from the throat of the yard all the way to the end of the drill track will hold 2 locomotives and 20 cars. So basically every track in the classification yard, no matter if it's completely full, they can still be completely pulled out by the yard crew without having to go onto the main line by making use of the drill track. So it goes all the way. You can see that white factory in the distance. All right, so it goes all the way around the curve, just past that factory there. On the west end, it goes even further. I can pull about 27 cars out of that. So it's got an even longer drill track. All right, so the East Yard crew has put the NS33A cars into the correct classification tracks and has taken cars from the classification track and has built the Norfolk Southern train NS12A. And it's going to go into a little holding area back there so that there'll be room for the locomotives to couple up and proceed eastward with that train. And there's a few more cars that needed to be added to this PR, the MPRDM train going out westward from Proviso. So we'll go ahead and pull those out and put those on departure track 2. Right, here you can see the commuter car being used as a conductor booth with ditch lights and headlights. That looks pretty cool. As you can see here also, I try to keep things not to be completely flat. So a couple of things that kind of add to the topography here. The car shops on the left are just a little bit lower than the main line and the rest of the tracks. So that gives a little bit of topography. And then, as I mentioned before, the main line is 1/8 of an inch higher than all the secondary track. Slow down. Man, I crashed right into that. All right, so we'll go ahead and push these in the rest of the way. And the incoming NS33 has been broken down and classified, and we have 2 trains that have been built and are ready for departure. So this West Yard crew will go ahead and take the crossover and go back towards the yard. And both trains are ready, and the next operations video will be locomotives coupling onto their trains, bringing up the air pressure for the air brakes, and then departing both westward across the Geneva sub and then also eastward toward Chicago. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. Stay tuned for the next one. Take care.